Welcome to our first of all Tuesday Tea live sessions. I am so excited. This is the first time going live on Substack and the first time that we do a Tuesday Tea live. And today, what we are going to be talking about is how to harness the power of pause so you can actually move forward powerfully. I'm so excited. I already see that two people are live. So say hello in the comments so I know who are you and that you have joined. I know I messed up something on Substack and all of a sudden I couldn't go live on my scheduled thing. So I hope that you can actually catch me live and find your way to me. So say hello in the comments if you are catching this live, and say hello in the comments also if you are catching this on the replay. My friend Gaia is here. She said, "Hey Erica, I read the tea and I love it." Oh yes, I'm so excited. So basically this is how the Tuesday tea sessions are going to work. Every Tuesday at 12 p.m. CEST, which is Central European Time, I am going to drop my Tuesday Tea newsletter. So you get to read it, figure out what is it that we're going to talk about, and then you show up live with me and you get the chance to ask your questions. We can just chat. It doesn't need to be something very serious. At the end of the day, this is a tea talk, right? So if you didn't read the tea, no worries. I'm going to share the tea and you can read it later. You can still catch up, okay? But I would love you to read it because number one, it's really fun. And then number two, you get to ask questions and I can go deeper and help you with what you really need. So what is this tea about? It's interesting. Some of you already know, but since I'm new on Substack, most of you probably don't know that last year I was writing a book. So I was writing a book about helping women who have been through trauma, through abuse, to be able to succeed, but in a way that didn't involve them neglecting themselves, self-sacrificing, overworking themselves to the point where they burn out, right? So I was writing this book. I was so excited. I mean, if you were in my world, immediate world, you knew that I was so freaking excited about this book. And I am still excited about this book, but something happened that changed things for me, which is my partner and I, we were living in Tenerife, and we have decided that we wanted to move. So Tenerife, which is an island in Spain, if you don't know where it is, just didn't make sense to us. And we have decided that we wanted to move. We wanted to move across the ocean. So what did that mean? That meant that we had to sell our apartment, pack everything up, and oh my God, so much energy went into it. And a lot of it was like, love and prayers, right? Because we did have a leeway and we did think we could achieve what we wanted, which was to move and have a country home and just live our lives that we dreamt of right now instead of waiting for 10 years, which is what we were doing in Tenerife. So obviously, when all of this happened, I didn't have much time to write. So I kind of just let the book a little bit in there. And when we finally got the house, listen, I probably need to do a live on this because it was crazy, right? It was crazy, just the whole process of getting into this place and settling into our new home. So what happened is that I started to think about my book in a different way. I wasn't feeling the connection that I felt at the beginning in my book because basically I grew so much with this move. And the main thing that I have learned is that, you know what, like you can really quantum jump and achieve what you want in less time. And I have dealt with so many things that the book didn't make sense anymore because it wasn't me. I just grew so much that this was like past version of Erika writing the book, and the current version of Erika, I was like, this doesn't make sense. So all of this to say that I have, and don't worry, I'm going to get to the pausing part, but I need to give you a little bit of background. We're just getting to know each other, right? So basically, what happened was that, I wasn't feeling the book, and I have decided to stop. And I said, okay, Erika, you know what? This isn't making any sense. It's not aligned. So let's stop. I guess this is first lesson out of here, right? This is a big part of the tea. You listening to yourself, and if something doesn't work, you being like, okay, it's not working for me, I need to pause. But it's so hard to pause, isn't it? It's so hard to pause. And we're going to get into the why in a little bit. So I have decided to pause, and I, moved on with my life. I have so many projects that I was like, okay, let's yeah, I felt a little bit of guilt, right? Which is when we are pausing something, it feels like we're quitting, right? So I felt a little bit of that. And just recently, I woke up and I had this huge download of everything. I visualized the entire book in my head, and it's been months since I wrote a sentence to that book. I just had a whole layout in my head, how I was, and I even wrote in the tea that I was writing and I just couldn't keep up with my writing because it was just so overwhelming and so much. And that got me to where we are today, talking about harnessing the power of pause, because it got me thinking about how pause is so crucial for you to move forward in an aligned way. Of course, if we're talking about living in misalignment, I could have written the book and whatever, and you would be reading a book that, I don't know, I wouldn't even like reading that book because it was not up to date, right? So it got me thinking about, we need to pause. We need to stop sometimes. And we want to move forward and we want to build the thing. And sometimes we forget that there is a lot of power in pausing. So it got me thinking, it got me inspired, and I was like, that's going to be the tea. Okay. That's what we're going to talk about. But before we get into this, I want us to talk, just to reflect a little bit on why is it so hard for us to pause, right? So many of you probably have stories where I remember this clearly, being at my home, sitting on the sofa and just relaxing, and that not being okay. And just being startled by somebody else, be like, what are you doing? You should be doing this. And so we carry all of this guilt about resting and pausing. It almost feels like we're doing something that we are not supposed to do, right? So that's why it's difficult. And maybe in society itself, it's really annoying about this. You need to be productive all the freaking time, otherwise you're a loser. And I hate that. And I don't agree with that. Okay, I really don't agree with that. So I shared this story of the book with you because I feel it's a great example of what happens when you allow yourself to pause. Creativity just flourishes. You are able to think clearly and you are able to be as productive, AF, 10 times more productive. But how do you do it? How do you harness the power of pause? I'm going to share a recipe with you. Don't worry. And today I'm really happy. Look, it was my birthday yesterday, and I have a present from my friend Gaia, which has my human design. So I'm like drinking my tea and feeling so special because it's a special mug. Anyway, don't mind me. So you know what? I just want to stop for a moment to validate you, because it's normal that you feel like when you take a break, when you pause, when you rest, you feel like you're not supposed to. And it's engraved not only in us, but also in society. And I said, I don't like that. And I said this in the tea today. In Portugal, we have a saying that goes like this. I say we because I'm half Portuguese. I'm Portuguese Angolan. And my mother language is Portuguese, native language. So they say, parar é morrer. Parar é morrer, which means that to stop is to die. And I feel this sentence really tells us how deep it is in us to just keep going. So we need strategies and we need a strong mindset to be able to stop. Because I think that if you're here, if you are around my world, you're done with the hard work, right? You are done with just keep going and pushing forward. I was scrolling through Substack and I see what people are talking about. And I see that a lot of us women, we're just done with just keep going nonstop. But how do we harness that power? Well, that's the recipe. Let's start with the ingredients. Okay, let me take a sip of my tea. And if you want, even if you're catching this on the replay, tell me that you are ready. It motivates me. It motivates me to know that you're watching this. So are you ready for the recipe? Are you ready for the ingredients? And by the way, if you're watching this, then you can read the tea and you'll see all the ingredients and you can come back to me with questions, okay? All right, so let's talk about the ingredients. You're gonna need some planning. You're gonna need some enjoyment. And you are also going to need some reflection. I was looking at my notes. I almost forgot. That's what notes are for. So you're gonna need it, and you're going to decide how much you need of each. Usually, I give you like tablespoons and whatever. No, this time you decide how much you need. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about the pause. Okay. So first of all, we spoke about how society really sucks in this. It makes us feel bad for taking a break. And also, not only that, it is really hard to take a break nowadays, right? It's our phones, the notifications. Everybody thinks that we are available because it's so easy to reach out to us, right? And it's just everything is just made for us to keep doing something, like really, really doing something, right? And I was just thinking about this series that I love. I'm watching now, Outlander. I love this series so much. And of course, I watch it on Netflix. And what does Netflix do? Next, 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 right? So we live in this constant loop of like just next, 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 next. So if we don't plan to pause, the world is just going to take over. Other people are just going to drag us down, and we're not going to be able to pause. And also, there's another piece to it, which is, and usually I do this work with my clients where I sit down with them, really take a look at their lives. What do they have on their plates? And figure out, okay, where does pause, rest, restoration, processing, right? I had to do a lot of processing because of the move and everything. That's why the book didn't make sense. I needed to process some things because I've evolved, but I needed to catch up with myself, kind of. So we need these times to pause. And you've got to be the one who makes time to pause, right? So what does that mean? That means that you really, just as simple as it comes, you look at your schedule and you're like, this is my moment to pause, right? And I love that some people are kind of allergic to having structure. I love structure, okay? Let me just put it out there. I love structure. I believe it's the antidote to anxiety. I love it. I don't need rigid structure and like you can't do anything else like a robot, right? And a flexible structure. But it helps you to remind yourself to make that pause. Me personally, for example, after lunch, I always take a break. Usually 5 minutes. It doesn't even matter, but it's just I take a moment to myself, and I go outside to my garden and I sit down and I just look at the birds. I don't do anything else. Sometimes it's even 2 minutes, 5 minutes, but it makes a difference. And it's just a ritual, right? If you don't want to call it planning, call it ritual. It sounds more beautiful. Maybe I should have said ritual because it's more appealing, right? And then actually planning sounds very square. But okay, so first of all, we're going to plan the pause. All right, that's the first ingredient of the recipe. And then we're going to enjoy the pause. Right? Enjoy it. Enjoy. Drop the guilt, drop the I should be doing something else. Like just enjoy if you're gonna be 5 minutes, and during these 5 minutes, you're gonna be like, and listen, I do that too, okay? I'm always talking from experience. Always. If you're gonna sit down for 5 minutes and you're gonna be like, oh, I should be doing this, and just like annoying yourself in your head, then it's not a pause. Like what? So have fun. Have fun. What do I mean by having fun? Play your favorite song. Go ahead and dance. Move your body. Do something that you really like. Usually, if you, for example, let's say you say no to a commitment that you didn't want to go, instead of sitting down with yourself and just be like, oh, maybe I should have just find something for you to do. Okay. That can be watching your favorite series if that's what you really want to do, but make it fun, right? Pause doesn't need to be this, still thing. I'm going to meditate on something. It can be really fun. So make it fun. Okay. That's the second ingredient. And I love it. And there is something that I say in the tea. I wish I could access it. Where is it? So I can say it word by word. I really loved it. That's the thing about writing. Sometimes I'm like, when I write, I just speak so much better, right? And I said something about your enjoyment. Okay, why should your enjoyment be less valuable than writing a freaking email? It is not. Oh, let me repeat that. Why should your enjoyment be less valuable than writing a freaking email? It is not. we have this thought, we have this belief, well, many of us, that if we're enjoying ourselves, it's somehow less important than doing something productive for our business. Where did we get that idea? Well, we know where we got that idea, but like, we're not doing that anymore. Nope. Okay. And lastly, the last ingredient to harness the power of pause is to reflect on the pause. It really helped me, especially in the beginning when I was learning to listen to my body and my energy, and just being aligned with myself, to reflect on what happened during the pause, right? Not during the pause. This is not another homework for you to do during the pause, please. But it really helped me after the pause, just like I did with the book, right? With all the thoughts that I had. I was like, oh my God, yes, I actually needed this pause. This was so important, right? Just do a reflection so you can see and you can train your brain to tell your brain, your subconscious mind, that look, this is what happens when you pause. You get clearer ideas, you get more creative, you are rested, you are more focused, right? And I would even journal about it, and just so you can actually see, because we talk about doing things and applying strategies all the time, right? But sometimes we don't see the benefit of those strategies. And when you reflect on, oh, look at that, I did this. How did you feel? What happened during the pause? What was the result after that pause, right? Usually when I pause, let's say I'm working like crazy and I decide to, take a break, what I what I find out the day after sometimes is that I worked so much faster when I'm actually rested, and I just wasted my time. I would just have wasted my time if I just kept working. For example, it sounds really simple, but it's life changing, you know? So make that reflection on the pause and what that gave you. If you want to come back and share it with me in the comments, okay, my pause gave me this and that, or this is how I feel when I pause. Just help yourself see that only good things and wonderful, productive things happen when you pause. So, this is the recipe. It's very simple, but it's life changing, and that's what's going to move you forward. You plan the pause, you enjoy the fuck out of the pause, and then you reflect on it so you can keep going. Okay? Because when you reflect on it, you actually realize, oh, actually, this is helping me move forward to make the pause. So, this was the tea for today. We are going to have one of these sessions. Oh my God, this was so wonderful. Thank you, Gaia, for joining me. This was so wonderful. Gaia is talking about my mug. Yes, I love my new mug. This was so wonderful. I am going to come here every week after my Tuesday tea. So if you are not subscribed yet, subscribe to the Gentle Badass, because yes, we are going to have trainings coming up, some surprises that I'm like, don't say anything yet, Erika. Don't say anything, Erika. I have some surprises ready for you. Trainings are coming up. Tuesday tea is going to still happen every week. All of these written materials and visual materials to help you move forward and build the life that you actually want, but in a way that is aligned. Okay? Because you have been through a lot already. And I know that many of you right now, you've done so much healing and you are ready to build. So we build out here, we build things the gentle way. That's why this whole publication on Substack is called The Gentle Badass, because we're badasses, but we do it the gentle way. Okay? So I'll see you next week. See you in the chat. See you in your emails. See you in the next trainings. Go ahead, be awesome, be a badass, but remember to be gentle. Bye.